Okay, I'm always so pleased to have Dr. E. Michael Jones on. And we're talking about the war in different ways. And big news at the moment is, or big question is Bibi Netanyahu dead? So, what are your thoughts, initial thoughts? Because I don't want to ignore that kind of thing, and then we'll move on to the main topic.
No, I saw a picture of the attack on his compound. Apparently, his brother was killed. And now we're in the world of AI, which where virtual reality seems more real than real reality. And so I've seen pictures of him lying there dead. I've seen pictures of him standing there with his wife, claiming they're both dead. And then I just saw an AI video where he's standing there saying, "I'm not dead." So that was obviously a fake. I don't think he'd ever say that. So how are we supposed to do this? I don't know. I don't have any
But he's
other
not.
sources than that.
He's not turning up to meetings. And the video where I didn't even listen to. Was it the one with the two flags? I didn't even listen to it, but he had 6 fingers or something, and he
Yeah,
said, "I'm not dead."
my tech guy said that the 6 fingers can be a result of compression, or it can be a result of AI. So
Okay.
obviously that's evidence against the fact that he's alive. But is there an upcoming meeting where he absolutely has to show up live that we can count on, or not?
I
He's
mean, he
probably
could. Like everybody in the world is saying, like, "Oh, he's dead," so he could have just turned up and refuted it really easily. But instead, he's just not turning up to any meetings. So something's happening.
yes, yes.
You know.
So what
So
will probably turn out is that compared to the other people down the line, Bibi was probably a moderate compared to
no, don't
Smotrich,
say that. Oh
compared to
no.
Bezial Smotrich, compared to Ben Gavir was killed, wasn't he? I think Ben Gavir was killed.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, hopefully there's nobody as bad as him because I don't think anybody's been on the job trying to attack Iran for as long as him. Is anybody else like?
No, it's been his lifelong project. And
Yeah.
so be careful what you pray for. The lifelong project turned out to be maybe the end of him, but it looks as if it's going to be the end of Israel. There are huge
Yeah.
demonstrations in Tel Aviv now. Apparently, the people of Tel Aviv don't like being treated like Palestinians in Gaza.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I don't know
yeah,
why.
they're desperate to leave. So many people are desperate to leave. They're not allowed to leave or they can't leave. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just briefly, how would you feel about it if Benjamin Netanyahu was dead?
Well, I wouldn't, I hate to see anyone murdered, but I mean, why should I feel bad that he's been removed from office? Look at all the damage he's done for 40
Yeah.
years. I think this is the way God works in human history. This man prayed for 40 years that the United States would attack Iran, and the very moment when his dream comes true, it ends up the worst thing you could ever happen to you.
Cool. Yeah.
We need to keep this in mind. This is the way God works in human history.
Yeah. God has a sort of poetical style to his work. So yeah. Yeah. Cool. So I'm very interested in this question or this idea brought up as very famous Professor Jiang. Lots of people know him. Maybe a quick introduction. He got really famous because he made 3 predictions that Trump would be elected, and this is long before he was elected. That there will be a war in Iran, and that he's also made a prediction that Iran would win, which most people wouldn't really think of before the war started, but now they do. So it's a very interesting character, quite logical. Let's play what he's got to say about the nature of this war.
Words, this is a war not just for Iran. This is a war not just for the Middle East. It is a war for the soul of humanity. World War III is meant to be the last and final war of all human history. Because whoever wins this war will control the very soul of human existence. The game that you think they're playing is not the game they're playing. The reward that you
Oh, I don't know why it does that.
think they want is not the reward that they want, okay? think in terms of material things. Okay, so money, resources, power. We think that the war is being fought over these things, and it's not. The real power, the real currency, human consciousness. This war is being fought to control the consciousness of the human race, because it is our consciousness that creates reality itself. That's the source of all wealth and all power in this world. Okay, that's why this is happening.
So,
All right.
Your thoughts?
Yes. So it starts off with concepts like the soul. That's interesting. Soul of humanity. Not sure what that means. And then he goes to repudiation of materialism. I agree with that. What we saw in 1979 was a worldwide repudiation of materialism. In Iran, under the Ayatollah
Can you explain
Khomeini,
those terms? I don't even know what repudiation means.
repudiation means a rejection of materialism.
Oh, okay.
Materialism, that you are
So
simply.
I know materialism. Yeah.
You're a machine. You're a biological machine, and your actions are determined by your DNA. That's a form of materialism. And he rejects that. So the Ayatollah Khomeini rejected it in Iran, and Pope John Paul II rejected it in Poland. And John Paul II brought about the collapse of the communist empire, the Soviet Union. And now it looks as if Iran is going to play a role in the collapse of the American empire. So I agree with that. I agree with him so far. But then he talks about consciousness. This is a war about consciousness. And then he says, it is our consciousness that creates reality itself. Now, this is a deep philosophical issue that has been going back and forth for centuries, okay? The relationship between consciousness and reality. So let me give you an example. I go to church. The church has a granite floor. The granite floor is dots. It's a little, you know what granite looks like. It's a little dots there. And I stare at the floor and suddenly a face emerges. Has this ever happened to you? Where you suddenly see the dots come together as a face.
You imagine some picture, yeah.
Well, where is the face? The face
in your mind
is my mind. That's exactly right. So if the floor are dots, so that's a category of reality. The face that I see is a category of the mind. My mind organizes things. My mind is always organizing things according to categories. Okay. So now I'm saying there are two issues now, categories of the mind and categories of reality. Now, he just disagreed with that. He said consciousness creates reality. What he's saying is that all we have are categories of the mind, or that the categories of the mind are primary here and they create reality. So that's the fundamental issue. There's a long history of this in the history of philosophy, especially in the West. The culmination of this would be German idealism, where they tried to explain, so Hegel, Fichte, Hegel, and Schelling, they were all known as German idealists. They tried to explain how everything was consciousness, which is what he just said. Okay, now there's a sense in which
I thought he was saying something different. I thought he was saying like, or maybe that's maybe because I don't know the philosophy behind what he's actually saying or something. But I thought like everything starts from ideas, like an intention, and then comes from that. So you have an intention to run, then you can run. That's what I understood.
Okay.
And then I want to come back to the battle for the soul.
I don't see that I'm saying anything different. I mean, I think we're agreeing here.
Oh, okay.
But I'd like to make a fundamental distinction which he did not make between categories of the mind and categories of reality. Let's take 24 hours in a day. Is that a category of the mind or a category of reality?
Probably the mind and its abstraction of the reality. So
I agree. It's a category of the mind. How do we know that? We can change it. We could have 12 hours in a day if we wanted.
If you want
We
to
could
call
have
it a day.
5 hours in a day. We could have 10 hours in a day. We could go to the decimal system. Why do we have 24 hours? Because it's divisible by a lot of different numbers. Divisible by 1, 2, 3, 4, not 5, 6, and so on and so forth. So it's easily divisible. So we created that category of the mind because it's useful. All right, how about the number of days in a year? Is that a category of the mind or a category of reality?
I mean, it's not exact anyway, so it's got to be the mind because it's not an exact definition of a year. Because
You're right.
a year is
It is
364 and a quarter or something.
Yeah, why is it 365 and 1/4 days? Why can't we say the year is made up of 360 days? That's a lot easier to divide. You could have 12 months, each of 30 days. It would be much simpler in terms of, why can't we say that?
Because you couldn't have consistent years. Like,
what happens
the
if we
seasons would go wrong?
That's
basically.
right. You're absolutely right. So what happens, even if you eliminate the quarter of a day, within a couple of years, it's going to be snowing in July. I'm obviously referring to the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
And suddenly everybody's aware, wait a minute, this isn't right. Something's wrong here. That means 365 and 1/4 day is a category of reality, and we can't change it. There is nothing we can do about that. We have to accept the reality of the situation. We have to accept the fact that the mind can't change it. Okay? So where does God fit into this?
Well, I mean, I was actually interested in the first bit and where I think God kind of does fit into it, which is this a is this a battle for the soul of humanity? And what I thought he meant by that was like, this is a battle between good and evil. And we've got like the Epstein club trying to destroy the world and ruin it and rape people and pedophiles and stuff, versus people who want some level of morality. And we don't want the Epstein club to win. So that's why it's a battle for the soul of humanity. Because if Israel and America win, they're going to continue this ugly way of life.
Right. I agree with you.
And destroy everything.
So we're in a moral battle. I have described this as the battle in America between Catholics and Jews, because they are it's Protestant, Catholic, Jew. The Protestants are disappearing in America. They're the three main ethnic groups, and now we have a battle between Catholics and Jews. I don't know whether you saw the hearing on religious liberty with Carrie Prejean Bowler, the beauty queen. Did you see that story?
Yeah, I think so. The one, did we talk about last time or something?
We may have talked about it last time.
She's the one who spoke up against and said, "Am I anti-Semite for believing Jesus is God and stuff like that?" Is that right?
Yeah, she said, "If I believe that the Jews killed Christ, does that make me an anti-Semite?" And this blew up the entire committee. The rabbis didn't know what to say. Polite people don't talk this way. That's why you have to invite polite people to these things who will never raise any of the issues. So now it's out in the open. We have a conflict between Catholics and Jews, and the issue is morality. Is morality a category of the mind or a category of reality? Do the Jews have this feel? The Catholics feel that this is a category of reality. It was created by God. It's written on the heart of man. The Jews feel they have an exception to this because they have special DNA. And so you've got a battle here. You're right. It's between good and evil. In many ways, it's between God and Satan. So what does Satan say? I'm talking very specifically about a speech in Paradise Lost, which is the great epic poem that has basically created the satanic mind of the United States of America. Satan said, the mind is its own place. In other words, that's what Professor Yang is saying. He's saying that our consciousness creates reality. That's exactly what he's saying. This is exactly what Satan is saying. My consciousness is superior to God's law. Now, who else said that? So we're here. Donald Trump is being interviewed by the New York Times. They say, do you follow international law? Donald Trump says, no. Well, then what do you follow? He says, my mind. This is satanic.
Wow.
This is the battle. Is my mind superior to God? Well, that's exactly what Satan said in the speech he gave in hell.
Isn't that just the liberal point of view? The liberal point of view is morality is what I say it is. That's the liberal point of view, isn't it?
Liberal is an obsolete category. Liberal and conservative are obsolete categories right now. They're third republic categories. The third republic is coming to an end. We need new categories that will address the situation as it exists right now. And I'm saying categories of the mind, categories of reality, God versus Satan, Satan's speech, the satanic idea that my mind is its own place, that nothing matters but the integrity of my own mind. This is the fundamental reality of America. Every single person who signed the Declaration of Independence read Paradise Lost, either directly or indirectly through the most famous pamphlet in American history, which was Tom Paine's pamphlet, Common Sense, which quotes Satan's speech over and over and over again throughout the entire pamphlet.
Can you explain? I mean, it's worth asking because I am a bit confused, but I don't labor the point. Like, I'm not even labor the point. I'm actually just confused why you say the liberal way of thinking is an outdated way of thinking that doesn't help us deal with reality right now. Because would you not agree that most of the West has become liberal, which is the reason why there's no clear idea of morality?
No, most of the West has become satanic.
Okay.
Liberal. What do you mean by liberal? You mean big
Liberal
government?
means like
you mean big government? You mean social engineering? I could talk for days about liberalism in America. You mean English liberalism? You mean free market, free trade liberalism as it grew up in?
Not economic liberalism. I mean moral liberalism. It's like, oh, there's nothing wrong with being gay, for example, because that's just, you know, you do what you feel, what your feelings decide what is right and wrong.
Okay, that's satanic. If you say your feelings define what is right or wrong, you're saying my mind determines reality. Well, that's satanic. That's exactly what Satan said in Paradise Lost. Your mind does not. There's one being whose mind determines reality, and that is God. If God thinks it, it happens. If God says the word, it happens. It's creation. God created the world by saying a word. And he pronounced a word that came from his mind. So in a sense, yes, there is one being whose mind determines reality. That's God. Anyone else? No, you're a creature. And if you want to understand reality, you have to conform yourself to God's will. Now, Islam got that straight. Okay, you understand submission. The question is submission to what? That's where the issue comes in.
God, of course, for Muslims.
Of course. But what do you mean by God? So I'm saying, I get into trouble with Catholics all the time. I say Catholics and Muslims worship the same God. Okay, I believe that.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church teaches that. The difference is our understanding of God. That's where we differ. Not that we worship two different gods. We worship the same God, but we have a different understanding. And that's where the crucial issue comes in. Who is it you're worshiping? What is it what are the characteristics? Can we say that God has a certain profile? Well, the answer,
maybe it's worth listing a few, because I think a lot of our shows about how we believe in much of the same thing. So, do you believe God is gracious? I mean, he gives us so much without us even asking, like air and stuff.
Yes, I do. I do believe that God is gracious. I believe that you can say certain things about God with certainty. You can say without any faith whatsoever that God exists. I can prove that God exists. I did this when I was in a school in India, And a 16-year-old asked me to prove the existence of God, and I proved it. So you can prove the existence of God, which means if you're an atheist, you're irrational. You're not accepting reason. And if you're not accepting reason, I have to go to another source. And I'm saying that the source of atheism is not ontology, it's psychology. And I can trace it to your relationship with your father.
Wow.
God is an exalted father. Sigmund Freud said that, but I think it's true. You get your idea of God from your father. If your father is a failure in your eyes, then you think God is a failure. You think God is weak, and so on and so forth. You can trace atheism to a relationship with your father.
Amazing.
Is to say, God is my father. God is my father. Is that a category of the mind, or is that a category of reality? Are we talking about me projecting my mind onto God, or are we talking about God in his actual existence? Which is it?
I mean, like, some people think of father as being a certain characteristic, but I would say, like, your parent, even your mother, your creator, your carer, the person. Yeah. So in that sense, it's your father and your parent and your mother at the same time. So I would say just
No, that's
all of
not.
those.
I'm not asking. First of all, I do not believe that God is my mother. If you go simply from anthropology, there has never been a time when the human being did not believe in God. Atheism is a much later. If you go to the most primitive people in the world, they all have a concept called God. And invariably, they will say God is a father, and they say God lives in heaven. This is pure anthropological facts. So as these cultures develop, they become decadent. And when they become decadent, suddenly gods proliferate to the point of India, where you have 33 million gods. That's
So
a sign
as
of later
Muslims,
decadence.
we don't directly say God is a father or mother, but we have attributes. So, for example, one of the main attributes, Raham, which means womb, is the source of, or the relates to the key attributes of God, which is most gracious, most merciful. I.e., let me explain that point roughly. Like, are we not? What is a womb? What is a womb? I mean, sorry, did I say Raham means womb? Okay, that's the key term, right? That describes God. So, are we not constantly in an environment created by God to be taken care of? Like a womb, like we're in a constantly within a womb-like situation, where we're an environment that God has provided for us and taking care of us and nurturing us. Do you see that? That's the sense in which she's the mother, right? But it's not actually the mother, because mothers have lots of limitations. Actual human mothers have lots of limitations.
Okay, in Catholicism, we have disconnected these things. So the Blessed Mother is the mother of Jesus Christ, okay, who is both God and man. She is not divine. She's a creature. The Trinity are three divine beings, co-eternal. So there is nothing, what should I say, nothing female about God. God is a father. This is the fundamental prayer of the Catholic Church, of Christianity, is Our Father who art in heaven. That is the fundamental understanding of mankind, which we learned about through anthropology. The most primitive people in the world don't have wheels or anything like that. They believe that God exists, that he's a father, and that he lives in heaven. And the prayer that Jesus Christ himself taught us begins with exactly that statement. Our Father who art in heaven. So we are situated in a world that was created by God for our benefit. And so is the universe is benign because of that, because it's created by God.
Okay, cool. Should we jump into our main questions? And we can go in different directions afterwards. Has World War III started, in your opinion?
No.
Interesting. Your opinion?
Because World War III would involve China. China is not involved yet. World War III will begin when China tries to take over Taiwan. So until that happens, it's not. I wouldn't call it World War III. It's a regional conflict. And the battle here is the battle over Western Asia, or what we call the Middle East. And I think that the outcome of this battle is going to be that the American empire will break up. The American empire has lost control of the Middle East. And I base that on the fact that the Straits of Hormuz are closed. The Iranians were capable of closing the Straits of Hormuz. They have destroyed all of the American military facilities on the Gulf. All the Emirates now are basically asking. The United States failed to protect the Emirates. They guaranteed that they would protect them. They've shown now that they cannot protect them. That means that the United States has to withdraw from the Persian Gulf, and that will mean the end of the American empire. The American empire has to control the sea lanes. The whole point, there are times when we didn't have an army, but we've always had a navy. We inherited this idea from the British Empire. To control the world, you have to control the sea lanes. Probably the most important sea lane in the world is the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the world's oil, 20% of natural gas, 30% of the fertilizer all come through this. The United States has to keep this open. If it cannot keep it open, that is the end of the American empire.
Wow. So this is pre-World War III. I mean, we can't say it's completely regional because we have China helping in the background, Russia helping in the background. They've picked Iran as their side, and America's clearly involved. But okay, cool. But I get it. So this is kind of like a prelude to World War III, maybe, or maybe not. Is it connected?
Can go either way. It can go either way. Let's pray for peace. God listens to our prayers. I mean, if there's ever proof of the existence of God, it's what's happening in Tel Aviv. God will not be mocked. And so what happens to the Palestinians is now happening to the Israelis. What happens to the Palestinians in Gaza is now happening to the Israelis in Tel Aviv. This shows that there's the hand of God, the hand of justice here. Okay, so God is there and he listens to our prayers. We know that. And so we should pray for peace because we don't want it to go to World War III.
I love that, actually. Absolutely. Yeah, we should definitely be praying for that. Yeah. And so you basically agree with this Chinese professor who says that Iran's going to be your next superpower? Because, I mean, it kind of makes sense.
No.
The reason why it makes sense. Shall I give you his argument very briefly?
Okay, go ahead. All right.
He says that now that US is out, like you said, the US is out of the picture. It can't defend the Emirates, the Gulf states, which have got all the oil. And Iran is going to say, you've got to pay now. You've got to pay up for all the damages you've caused us. So they're going to control. They're going to be taxing the oil lanes essentially. So they're going to get a lot of money, trillions, right?
Alone, the fact that what's oil selling for now? $200 a barrel? That's going to be a huge windfall for Iran and Russia, by the way. They're both going to make out like bandits.
Yeah, and potentially Israel's finished. It's a very tiny country and it's been bombed completely. So it kind of shifts things. America's on its way out.
Right.
Maybe.
America's on its way out. The American empire is ending. I've been saying this for a long time. We are seeing the end of the Third Republic. The Third Republic began with the emergence of the American empire after World War II. There was one opponent, that was the Soviet Union. By 1989, 1991, the America was the sole hegemon. It ruled the entire globe, okay? But it had to keep the sea lanes open, okay? It can't do that. And so what will happen is they will lose control of the Gulf, and Iran will become the ruler, a regional ruler there, but it can't become a world hegemon. It's impossible. They can't do that. And they don't want to do that. They're very intelligent. I could talk for hours about Iran, how intelligent those people are. This is an ancient culture that understands how to be patient. Okay, and that's what they're doing. I am going to go one step further, and I'm going to say that Iran is the instrument of God's power now in the world. That Iran, I've told you before, Islam is the scourge of God. This is the way the West has always seen Islam. Whenever the West falls away from the faith, whenever they start fighting with each other, God sends Islam up the Danube River. Usually, it's the Turks for the most part. It's Turkish incursion into. So to punish them, I am saying Iran historically has played a role in salvation history. So when the Jews violated their covenant, when they did things that were abominations in the sight of God, God punished them. Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar took them from where they were and put them into Babylon and in exile. God's punishment does not last forever. And so after 70 years, the punishment was over. Who was the instrument of their release? It was Cyrus, king of Persia. He conquered Nebuchadnezzar. He went to the Jews. I mean, he's not a Jew. He's a Persian, nothing to do with being a Hebrew. But he was the instrument of God's power at that point. And he told the Jews, it's time to go back. Your punishment is over. Go back to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple.
Wow.
That was God using Persia as an instrument of his power. And I'm saying the same thing is happening now. God's punishment is merciful. We should always see God's punishment as mercy. So when you have totally screwed up your life and you're totally living a completely evil life and you don't care about God or his laws, God will probably arrange a horrible accident, a car accident for you, so you will come to your senses through suffering. Suffering is always an aid to conscience, or he'll give you a horrible form of cancer. That's God's mercy. Because he wants
a lot of people have said that, like, even though it looks terrible from the outside, some of these terrible things actually make people's lives better somehow. They focus on what's actually important. It's actually very true from so many people's perspective. That I just got to ask, and maybe it's a sidetrack, but you say God's punishment is mercy. Is that how you said it?
Yeah.
Is hell a form of mercy? Because I have a very different perspective on hell compared to a lot of Muslims and Christians. I don't think hell is forever. I think hell is a form of rehabilitation. Actually, there's evidence in that in the Quran.
What you're talking about is purgatory. We believe in purgatory. Do you believe in purgatory?
I get it mixed up. I believe in, what is purgatory again?
Okay, there's heaven, where you're with God. There's hell, where you're totally distant from God for all eternity. You're going to suffer burning flames. You're going to be tortured for all eternity because of your wickedness. Now, some people are not totally wicked and they die, and God has mercy on them and he sends them to purgatory. Purgation means cleansing. And so you have the fires of hell, but they don't last forever. They cleanse you of your sins. It's a refining fire, like gold. You're burning out the impurities the way you refine gold. And that's an expression of God's mercy.
So my idea of hell is only purgatory, because I think you cannot be punished forever for a limited number of sins. But I'm not sure if I want to sidetrack on that, but that's my idea.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Next question is this on the screen. If Iran loses the US and Israel control Iran, could this be bad for the rest of the world?
Yes. We need deliverance. I'm speaking as an American. We live in a totally corrupt system that is ruled by Jews with no mercy. Jews do not believe in mercy. If you don't believe me, talk to Shakespeare. Watch The Merchant of Venice and listen to that play about the way Shylock the Jew talks about mercy as opposed to the Christian. Okay? So we are Americans, I'm saying, are now living under a totally tyrannical rule where if you say anything that a Jew doesn't like, he has a right to destroy your life and kill you. a right to kill you and get away with it. And the way they treated the Palestinians in Gaza is totally tyrannical. And we as Americans can't break it. We can't get out from under the system. So when it becomes corrupt, God's mercy sends someone from the outside to liberate the captives. That's what Persia was with the Hebrews. He liberated the captives and sent them back to Jerusalem, and then he continues to sin anymore. We have to pray that Persia will liberate us from Jewish hegemony. And I'm talking about the entire world, but especially America.
Interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. I feel like there may be I'll quickly throw in a side question. Would you say that Israel have been taking advantage of or using America to do its bidding? So using American tax money, you need a good amount of millions of people to pay tax to fight these Jewish wars.
Right.
But if America's collapsing, and I don't think Israel could possibly leech off them anymore, or it's going to be hard to leech off them because it's so unpopular.
Right.
And there's no money. They've destroyed it. They're on like minus 30 trillion now. I don't know what's left of America.
Absolutely.
Right? Are they going to take over some other country? Because I know it's already happening. They're going to Cyprus. They're going to Kenya. They're going to different places.
Well, maybe they will take over. Plenty of Jews are moving to Cyprus. Could they take over Cyprus? Well, yeah, maybe. But it's not like taking over America. I mean, God bless Cyprus, but they're not going to rule the world from Cyprus. So it's like a vacation home in Cyprus, which will mean the end of this illusion that the Jews have a right to their own state. That's not, God didn't say that. The Christian Zionists go to the Bible. Israel has a right. No, it doesn't. With a bunch of Polish thugs. I don't want to offend the Poles there. They get mad at me when I say that, but a bunch of Jews from Poland, Jewish terrorists from Poland showed up in Palestine after World War II and capitalized on the Holocaust narrative and engaged immediately in ethnic cleansing and terrorism. And they've been doing it for 78 years now. No Jewish kingdom has lasted longer than 80 years. So we're talking about 2 years.
Wow.
It's going out of existence as we speak. Have you watched the missiles raining down on Tel Aviv? Do you know what the difference between now?
I'm just fascinated by the fact that you say no Jewish. I mean, I don't know the history of every Jewish empire or Jewish. I don't know. There's no such thing as a Jewish empire, is there? But it's never lasted more than 80 years. Interesting.
Do you know who said that? Ehud Barak said that, and Ehud Barak, former prime minister of Israel, said no Jewish kingdom has lasted longer than 80 years. So this explains their desperation, or the desperation of a guy like Netanyahu. Like, I'm going to break that curse. This is my mission in life. God anointed me to break the 80-year curse. This will be the greatest victory for Jews in all of the entire history. And I will be and it didn't work. It didn't work. You were that close. You were that close and you didn't make it. And maybe you're dead now. Now you have to face God for all the people that you murdered just to justify your ego, your bloated ego, your Jewish megalomania. God will not be mocked. Have you noticed the difference between the pictures of the missiles coming down now and a week ago? Have you noticed the difference?
Like the videos, I would say that there's just a few and they're just getting through because there's nothing blocking them.
That's exactly the difference. So a week ago, they were coming down and you see something going up and nothing's going up anymore. They ran out of ammunition. Israel, Tel Aviv is totally defenseless now. Totally defenseless. And at this point, they cry for a ceasefire and the Iranians aren't listening anymore. The Israelis broke that. They lied about negotiations and now Iran is not listening to them anymore.
Yeah. Fascinating. Have I put, next question. Is there a good and bad? I mean, we've already said this. Is there a good and bad side in this war?
What do I mean by good and bad? God's law is universal or my mind. That's the difference between good and bad. Are you a creature created by God and you have to follow God's law if you want a happy outcome for your life? Or are you some type of satanic being who rebels against God and say, all I follow is my own mind. My mind is the mind is its own place. Nothing matters but the integrity of your own mind. I could go through American history of one thinker after another espousing this satanic philosophy. That's the difference that we're dealing with right now.
So there's one side, the American side, you're saying, is obsessed with the self being all powerful. Like this,
Right.
whatever I decide is true. And then the other side is the Islamic side, actually, which is saying it's only up to God what's right and wrong.
I'm saying it's the Catholic side too. I'm saying the one thing we have in common is submission to Allah. We both believe in submission to God's will if we want to be happy. That's the difference is your idea of God's mind and my idea of God's mind. That's where we differ. But we both believe that in order to be happy, you have to submit to God's will.
Yeah. Okay. And then you're not equating America with Catholicism at all. Is that right? Because they don't have power. Is that what you're saying? Like there's Catholics in America, but they don't control how the country's run. Okay.
That's right. Never did. They were always held in contempt. They were always a persecuted minority. And that's what they are today. The people who are ruling America are the Christian Zionists. They're the people who are in charge right now.
Cool. What are the signs of Armageddon or the end times, or are they different? Because a lot of people say this is Armageddon, which is a question we're getting to, but yeah.
Well, in the book of Revelations, these armies come from the north, and Armageddon is basically the plain. Megiddo, the plain of Megiddo, and these great armies will clash, and then there'll be the end of the old age, and Christ will come and he will rule. I don't know the time or the hour. I know what the story is. Whether this is a manifestation of that story, obviously armies are coming together. They're going to clash. I'm going to tell you, if you're asking me personally, I don't think it's Armageddon. I think it's the end of the American empire, and it's the end of the Third Republic. And people always confuse the end of a particular republic with the end of the world. And I'm not just talking about Americans. When Saint Jerome lived through the end of the Roman Empire, he believed that this was the end of the world. He couldn't imagine a world without the Roman Empire to hold it together. This collapsed when St. Augustine was there, 410. He watched it collapse. It was the end of the world. St. Augustine was living in Africa at this time. He was fighting against the heretics, the schismatics, the Donatists. He was using Roman police power to keep these schismatics in line. When the Roman Empire collapsed and they lost the police power, the Donatists came in, these heretics, and swept Catholicism out of North Africa, and it never returned. This prepared the way for Islam. Which swept this. So that was 410. Let's say 150 years later, Islam sweeps through Northern Africa, and it's been in control there ever since. So it was the end of the world. If you're talking about the Catholic Church in North Africa and the Middle East, it was the end of the world. The end of the Roman Empire seemed like the end of the world, but it wasn't. Okay. So what happened is the new empire, a new empire arose, and that was the Catholic Holy Roman Empire.
Interesting. So, I think we possibly agree on an idea of Armageddon that might be different to a lot of other people's idea, which is Armageddon doesn't mean literally the end of the world. My idea is that there'll be thousands, or specifically 6,000-7,000 years after this great collapse of society, which will be through some sort of war. And I think Armageddon sounds like a war, was it fire raining from the sky, which is missiles, essentially, which could be interpreted. So, do you agree that if there's an Armageddon, destruction of society, that's not the end of the world? It's the end of the world as we know it, maybe, but there'll be a great new world, a revived new world, a good new world after it. Is that your idea of Armageddon?
I
Cool. Wow, fascinating.
believe that Jesus Christ will return in power. The first time he came, it was not in power, but this time he will return in power, and he will judge the living and the dead, and he will separate the good from the evil, and the evil will go to hell and the good will go to heaven. I believe that as a Catholic. That's my faith. Whether this is it, I can't say. I can't say whether that's going to happen now.
Interesting. And my interpretation, because I'm an Ahmadi Muslim who believe that second coming of Jesus come and the whole kind of things are going to unfold now, is that it's not literally like heaven and hell is for the next life. And so there will be a separation of good and evil, a clarification of what is good and evil when the revival of Islam comes and clarifies those kind of things. And because of that, you will have for a short period of time, a sort of paradise on earth.
Yeah. When I was in Iran, the mullah took me aside and he said to me, you're a believer. We don't want to convert you. I said, good. He said, what we will do, we will work together for peace until the coming of the 12th Imam from the state of occultation. And he said, when the 12th Imam returns, Jesus will be at his side. And between now and then, we will work for peace. So I said, okay, sign me up. I'll work with you on those lines.
Sounds like a plan. Okay. So we've already got through this question. Let's skip to the next one. So by the way, people, if we're watching, I always have these questions. I give them to Dr. Jones beforehand, and you can always check out the questions in the description below. I always have them ahead of time, so you can look forward to them or guess what's going to happen. What do you think of Christian Zionists who think we are about to enter Armageddon? So you've probably heard the reports that there are lots of people, even in the ranks of the US Army, saying, right, great, there's going to be a destructive, bloody army. Get excited about it. And people are like, hang on a minute, I don't want to be in a bloody army because I'll be the fodder. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be dying in this army. I'm not excited about it. A lot of people have been complaining about it. So lots of Christian Zionists at the top and even within the military system. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, apparently Pete Hegseth is one of these people. He's told the troops, I think he told the commanders, 80 base commanders, that we are in the final battle, that it's Armageddon. And then they start preaching this to their troops. And there are lots of people, soldiers, who are complaining. Like, I didn't sign up for this. I signed up to defend the United States of America and the Constitution. I didn't sign up for your crazy theology. So there are complaints coming in from the troops. But if you're asking me, is this driving America's war? I think you're right. That's what these people should not be allowed into any position of power, because their ideas are crazy. This is precisely the conflict I told you about at the beginning, where Carrie, the Catholic lady, says, I don't believe this. This is not my religion. You have no right to impose your religion on me. That's un-American. No American has the right to impose his religion on another American. And yet that's exactly what is happening now with the war and our foreign policy. It's been captured by a cabal of Christian Zionists.
But theologically, could they possibly be correct according to Christian theology? Could they be correct? Oh, this is Armageddon. Or maybe the real question is what they want to do. They want to make Armageddon
bring about happen. Armageddon. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And God's job is to do that, not their job.
Right.
Is that right? Is that how they're wrong?
I think that's where they're wrong, because you're much more aggressive, and your aggressive theology is distorting military strategy. So we don't have a strategy, because I think what they think is if we keep pressing the issue and we kill enough people, God will return and bless us. That's not the Pope disagreed with explicitly. He said the Pope just issued a statement saying there's nothing holy about war. And Jesus Christ brings peace. And if you're bringing war, you're not doing the will of Jesus Christ. This is this crazy dispensationalist theology that has now taken over the leadership of the United States of America.
I think what's his name? Heg? I keep forgetting his name.
Hegseth.
Yeah. He considers himself basically a crusader. Have you seen his tattoos?
Yeah, I've seen the
including
tattoos.
Gotham. Besides what was that? God wills it.
Deus Vult.
Yeah, this is what they used to say, right? God wills
The
it, then they go
Crusaders.
slaughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not only does he have that, do you know he's got an Arabic tattoo called
No,
Kafir, which means disbeliever?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, very interesting. The reason why it's interesting from a Muslim point of view is that the Antichrist is supposed to have the word kafir on his forehead. So it kind of feels like he's part of the Antichrist. But anyway, and we see the Antichrist as my understanding of the Antichrist, and it can be either understood from the saying of the Prophet Muhammad, is the corrupted Christian nations, not true Christian nations, but corrupted Christian nations, which will wreak havoc on the earth, and they will fight through fire systems, basically missiles and things, firepower essentially. So yeah, he does seem to be like a vehicle for the Antichrist. Okay, and then the last question. So, I mean, these guys are trying to bring on Jesus, so that's the reason why I'm asking this. Will Jesus be coming back anytime soon?
I don't know. He hasn't told me anything. He hasn't appeared to me. I believe in the revelation. I accept revelation by faith. I'm a member of the Catholic Church. I believe everything the Catholic Church professes, but I have to look at the current situation through the eyes of reason informed by faith. You know, I can't jump to, I don't want to jump to conclusions simply because I can go to the back of the Bible and read that story. The fundamental problem with Protestantism is sola scriptura. Sola scriptura means I am infallible when I interpret the Bible. No Catholic can believe that. That's a Protestant principle. And so what happens invariably when the Protestant give an Englishman a Bible, he immediately goes to the back of the book, goes to the Old Testament, starts reading those great stories about the wars of conquest of Canaan, and he says, well, I'm Gideon and they're Amalek. That's bad theology. It's bad diplomacy. It's bad military strategy. It's just bad. It's a bad idea. It's a function of Protestantism. Now you're seeing desperation among the Protestants. There's a guy named Doug Wilson who interviewed me, did a good interview. Now he's saying that when we get into power, no Catholic will be allowed to have a procession, a Marian procession. When I was 10 years old, my school had we carried a statue of the Blessed Mother and we prayed the rosary and we marched around the block. That's what we did. He will ban that.
You used to call Mary Marian, did you?
Marian is the adjective. One of the greatest moments of American cinematography film history is the Marian procession, the Blessed Mother procession in The Godfather. Did you see that film?
I've seen clips of it, but I can't remember that.
I have the Blessed Mother. She's being carried through Brooklyn, and people are throwing money at her. It's just a beautiful, and it's got that Nino Rota music. This is a beautiful expression of Catholic ethnic America, of the Second Republic, an era that's gone. It doesn't exist anymore, but it evoked incredible nostalgia. It made The Godfather such a powerful movie, had a huge impact on American consciousness because it harkened back to a time where these Italians could celebrate their religion publicly in a way that enriched our entire culture.
And they can't now? Has something changed?
No, they could do it. They are doing it now in New York. There are oppression. I'm saying this Protestant Doug Wilson wants to ban that. This is desperation. because the Protestants know they're going out of existence and they're lashing out in the same way that Israel was lashing out.
Yeah. I don't know if I somehow missed this. Did I miss this? Like, sorry, where is it? What are the signs? Because it's like hard to decide if Jesus is coming back if the signs haven't come across. Would you say Armageddon is linked to, I think you did say Armageddon, you have Armageddon, then you have Jesus coming back or something. I think it's kind of around the same time. What are the signs of Armageddon? Like from the Bible, any signs that come to mind?
Stress,
Really?
turmoil, war.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, obviously, we're going through that right now.
Oh, yeah.
Does that
When you
mean-
said stress, I was
does that
like
mean
confused.
does that mean every time we feel like a war or we feel stress, we have uncertainty? We're all waiting for the world to end. We're waiting for a nuclear bomb to drop or something like that. This is incredibly stressful here.
Mm.
But
Was there anything else like earthquakes and things? And
Yeah, natural disasters, signs in the heavens, the stars will fall from the sky. This is all poetic language describing a period of stress.
nothing
And-
literal. Like apparently we've had an upsurge of earthquakes and natural disasters in the last century.
This was written at the time when Nero was Roman emperor. This is when this book was written. And they were talking about the stress that Christians felt at that time being persecuted by a complete tyrant. Probably not as bad as Donald Trump. Who knows?
What
Maybe
was
he's
written?
worse.
Do you mean the Bible was?
The book of Revelation was written at the time of Nero.
Okay. Was that the are you saying, what are you saying? Are you saying that it wasn't, no, was Nero, I actually don't know which emperor was there at the time of Jesus. Was it Nero?
Yeah. Nero had a Jewish wife. Nero had a Jewish wife, and she Nero burned down Rome, and then the Jewish wife persuaded Nero to blame it on the Catholics. And so he began this ruthless persecution of Catholics. This is a time when they were taken into the Colosseum, eaten by lions. This type of persecution was taking place. It was unprecedented persecution, and they were looking for some type of relief from God. Well, God did come and relief. It didn't last forever. But what they're saying is, if you want to understand what the end times are going to be, it will be like this persecution under Nero. And it'll seem terrible, but God will triumph in the end.
Okay, let me just put some comments from the viewers. Okay. Jesus said that rumors of war is just the beginning. People have been in war since forever. Any thoughts about that?
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. I mean, we're going through a period of distress, but there have been plenty of historical periods of distress. I'm saying every time an empire ends, it's filled with distress. You have feelings of distress. And so the Romans in 410, when my barbarian ancestors sacked Rome, my German barbarian ancestors, when they sacked Rome, the Romans felt it's the end of the world. It was the end of the world, the end of that world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be, but this final thing is going to be unprecedented. I don't know whether this is unprecedented. It's bad, but again, it's happened before. It'll probably happen again. If you're asking me to put a bet in Las Vegas, I'm not going to put my money down saying this is Armageddon. I'm not going to place that bet.
I really hope so. I don't want it to be World War III. I don't want to be in it. Okay. Interesting. And last comment, I suppose, my thoughts are, you think World War III, I was just thinking, you think World War III is when China gets involved.
Right.
And you said when they'd try to take over Taiwan or something.
Yeah, so I think that would be World War III.
Interesting. Why do I think that's interesting? China hasn't been an expansionist empire. Maybe they're trying. I mean, maybe that's not called expansionist if they just take Taiwan. And will Taiwan always be important? Right? Isn't it just important for like microchips at the moment? I mean, that will change eventually. No.
It's very important technologically, because we don't produce microchips. You need
Well, that
microchips
could
for
change eventually.
everything from your microwave oven to the missile that's coming down on your airport. You need microchips for all those things, and we delegated. It was the biggest mistake that we ever made, to basically wreck the industrial base of America through leverage buyouts. The Jews buying up one company after another, viable companies that were making products that people bought, selling them off, loading them down with debt, and then letting them go belly up because they couldn't repay the debt. This is the Jewish kingdom is based on usury, riba.
Interesting.
And that's another thing we and Catholics and Muslims have in common. We need to have a culture which eliminates riba.
Can you explain to the average viewer who probably doesn't understand what's so bad about usury and what is usury? It's worth repeating, I guess, and then we can finish off.
Usury leads to unrepayable debt. It happens all the time. It's inexorable.
Interest-based loans, essentially.
Right, interest on loans. So beginning with the Bank of England, created in 1694, it was a private bank. The Whigs made out like bandits, making all kinds of money. Nothing lasts longer than 70 years. What happens when you have compound interest? It goes like this. It's an exponential curve, and it goes like that. What's that inflection point? That's 70 years, something like that. So what happened in American history? 1694, 1763, we can't repay the debt. What are we going to do? Lord Townsend goes to Adam Smith. Adam Smith says, make the colonies pay it. They come over, try to make the American colonies pay it, and that leads to the American Revolution, and we overthrew the British government. We're in a similar situation right now. Okay, we have $38 trillion in debt. We are now paying $1 trillion a year in interest payments alone, and that's going to go up. Okay, we cannot repay that debt. What happens when you realize you cannot repay that debt? You go to war.
Cool. But what's the lesson? What is the lesson for the individual? Because I'm trying to bring it back to the individual. What we should do, like Muslims,
avoid debt.
Muslims hate if they can avoid it. They won't borrow money on interest. They're allowed to take money as an investment. That's a completely different category. That's what Islam recommends or pushes, right? Rich people, their job is to invest in people. Otherwise, they have a wealth tax called the zakat, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, that says you're not using your money, you're not investing your money back, because everybody in the Quran, everybody has a right on your money, right? Through God. Like that's a duty that you've been given that wealth. You have to invest it. And if you don't, we're going to tax your money because you didn't invest it. And it's a wealth tax. It doesn't tax the poor. It only taxes the rich, which is a fascinating
We need a wealth tax. We need a wealth tax right now. Over the course of my lifetime, from 73 onward, trillions of dollars have been taken from the working class and put into the hands of the 1% of the 1%. They have no right to keep that money. So Thomas Aquinas, the great Catholic theologian, got a letter from the Duchess of Brabant. She said, the Jews have tied up the entire economy. He said, take the money from those Jews. They have no right to keep that money. That is traditional Catholic teaching. That's what we need to do right now. If you don't do that, what is the deep state thinking right now? Where are we going to get $38 trillion? Well, add up the oil reserves of Venezuela and Iran, and you multiply it by $80 a barrel, and you have $42 trillion. We solved the problem. All we have to do is conquer Venezuela and Iran, and our problems will be over. Usury leads inexorably to war. That's why we're in war right now. That is
exactly what the Quran says. Yeah. What does the Quran say? I mean, maybe I can put a quote later on, but I could read it. But it goes something like, "You do not rise. Those who involve themselves in interest only rise like Satan." I can't remember the exact term, but essentially, yeah, what is war? It's a satanic power.
Right.
It's a satanic
Right.
effect, and you rise, but in a very evil way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool. Right. Right. It's amazing how many things we agree on, so many details that people don't even think of.
Right.
And as a Muslim, and there'll be a lot of Muslims who say this, like if let's make it funny, okay? If white people are too racist to become Muslim because they think it's foreign, and they only think it's foreign because Jesus has become foreign, because Jesus is a Middle Eastern and he believes the same thing as Muslims do. But if they're too racist to become Muslim, we recommend they become Christian because that's the thing they're accustomed to or understand.
This,
And
this,
it'll be a
the,
step in the right direction.
the choice of accepting God is not something I can force on anyone. I cannot force this on anyone. You have to do this of your own free will. You have to accept God's call. But the moral law is mandatory. And we have to impose the moral law on everyone. The people who reject the moral law are known as criminals. At first, sinners, okay, but then if the sin gets hardened, they become criminals, and you have to use force against criminals. That's mandatory. Logos is mandatory. Rationality is mandatory. If you refuse to be rational, you will be punished. That's that's a universal law that I think we have in common. We have a lot in common, more than simply a common enemy. That's what the point of these discussions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, because it started from realizing that Zionists are actually paying for us to fight. So they're encouraging us to fight, and we shouldn't follow the divide and rule situation that they want. We should unite and work for a better society. Thank you so much. I really appreciate these monthly conversations, and hopefully we'll do that for a long time coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you.
Salam.